Greetings, LTDE 5317 classmates. I want to walk you through an article that's been the most helpful to me as I think about incorporating adaptive learning for training purposes in my professional context. Each fall, I offer training to faculty and staff who come with a wide range of confidence and knowledge regarding programmatic assessment. I want to meet each of them where they are without boring those with advanced knowledge or overwhelming the beginners. This article, 6 Ways to Add Adaptive Learning to Your Online Training, provided some low-tech ways that do not require AI or special software to incorporating adaptive learning. 2 ideas to be aware of before moving through this article are the idea of pull detours and push detours. A pull detour allows learning to go off of the main path to pursue additional learning on their own or allows the learner to choose to not. The other, a push detour, guides learners along a particular learning path, whether they want to or not. The first option presented in this article is to add optional content to training. For this option, all learners walk through the same path, but you are able to provide additional resources, either through sidebars, pop-ups, or more buttons, to allow learners to read more about the areas they're interested in, or allows them to spend more time on content that confuses them. This is an example of a pull detour. Here is a visual of what that might look like. In my context for virtual training, if I'm talking about how to write student learning outcomes, I can make sure everyone understands the basics, but could provide more information on Bloom's taxonomy or how to write student learning outcomes for undergraduate versus graduate programs. A second option is to use assessments that allow learners to test out of content they know or to fill in content when they need it. This is a push detour. If learners are given an assessment and there is confidence in the assessment truly measuring what we need it to, that learner is able to skip a lesson or module. Another version of this is if they can't pass the assessment, additional learning material is supplemented and they can test again. Here's a visual example of what that might look like. This is a bit harder to build and more nuanced to think through, but there is a possible way this could work in my setting. That might be for faculty and staff who've been involved in assessment for a long time. They might be able to test out of the what is a student learning outcome or what fields are a part of assessment plan portions of training. A third option is to assign training based on a learner's roles and responsibilities. This is a pretty straightforward idea, and here is a visual representation of what this would look like. Different answers to questions result in different modules being assigned. This allows the learners to not participate in training that isn't relevant to them. A fourth option is to offer small open-ended learning objectives that learners can pick and choose from in order to get what information they seek without mandating stuff they don't want. The benefit of this is if learners are self-selecting a topic, they're likely to be more engaged in the learning process. This works best to allow learners to identify their learning gaps, but might not be a good option for information that's required for them to know. The example the article provides is for new employee training. I've created training like this in the past, where there are 2-minute videos available for faculty and staff to access as they run into issues. They do not have to sit through a long video or read through a manual, but instead can search by topic and see a visual step-by-step answer to their question. And here's a good visual provided. A fifth option is to engage learners in a simulation that provides tutoring based on their decision-making. The idea of this is pretty straightforward. As learners make their way through a simulation, the course brings up helpful information. As this article states, the learner receives information relevant to the subject matter at a time and in a mental state for them to best absorb the information. I don't see this option working well for my context, but I think it would be really interesting in something like a government class, where students are able to write their own bill for Congress. And as they make their way through, they can be introduced to examples of previous bills that have been impactful, the different roles people play in Congress, and how Congress interacts with the other branches of government as outlined in the Constitution. The last example provided is a chat box or expert exchange so learners can ask questions and receive advice targeted at their gaps. This article is a sponsored article, and my understanding is that this last suggestion fits in with the sponsorship of the article. This is the least low-tech option, but there are two versions of this, automated and manual. The automated option allows for answers to automatically provided based on the question asked, and manual is where answers are provided by peers and managers rather than bots. I hope you found this information as helpful as I did, and that you're able to incorporate some of these options in adaptive learning opportunities for your context in the future.